It was a stormy night when David Miller heard the soft knock on his door. The wind howled through the trees, and rain lashed against the windows of his small countryside cabin. He wasn't expecting anyone. In fact, he hadn't had a visitor in months. David had moved to the edge of town with his 6-year-old son, Eli, after losing his wife to cancer the year before. Grief had consumed him, leaving a gaping silence in his home, one that neither time nor company seemed able to fill. He buried himself in woodwork and raising Eli, but the spark in his eyes had long since faded. When the knock came again, this time weaker, David hesitated, then cautiously opened the door. Standing there was a young girl, no older than 15. Her hair was soaked, her face bruised, and her clothes torn. She looked like she hadn't slept or eaten in days. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, in a trembling voice, she whispered, "Please, just for one night." David's instincts told him to call the police. But then he saw the fear in her eyes, the kind of fear that said she'd already been failed by too many. Without another word, he stepped aside and let her in. He gave her a towel, dry clothes that once belonged to his late wife, and a warm bowl of soup. Eli peeked from behind the doorframe, curious but unafraid, and David gently told him, "It's okay, buddy. She's our guest tonight." The girl introduced herself as Rachel. She didn't say much, only that she'd run away from a home where no one listened, and from a man who hurt her more than words ever could. David didn't press for details. He recognized pain when he saw it, and he knew sometimes silence spoke louder than stories. That night, as Eli slept, David sat near the fireplace, Rachel wrapped in a blanket across from him. She stared into the flames as if searching for something. "You must love your son a lot," she said softly. "I do," David replied. "He's the only reason I get out of bed some days." She looked down. "I didn't have someone like that." David wanted to respond, but his heart ached with the weight of his own emptiness. He had saved Rachel from the storm outside, but he was still drowning in the one within himself. As the night deepened, Rachel stood and walked over to him. Her eyes met his, and in the quietest voice, she said, "Thank you for seeing me." And then, she whispered something else. Something that shattered the walls David had spent a year building. "My dad used to tell me I was a mistake." David felt a lump rise in his throat. He hadn't said it aloud, but since his wife's death, he often questioned whether Eli would have been better off with someone else. He'd failed to smile, failed to be strong, failed to believe he was enough. But in Rachel's whisper, he heard not just her pain, but his own reflected back at him. And in that moment, he realized something powerful. He was still capable of mattering to someone. The next morning, he made calls. To Child Services. To A.